Hi, Michelle.
Hey, Katie.
So here we are, Rebel Therapy Podcast, episode 9. Please like and subscribe. It really does help other people find us. What are we talking about today, Michelle?
Today we're going to talk about you can't talk your body out of feeling what it's feeling. We're going to look at it through an experience I had recently that I think a lot of people might relate to. I have a history of medical trauma, and I had to go in and get some blood taken, and it often brings anxiety for me. Before I was aware of that, it could build into some sort of panic attack for me. But I've done a lot of work on it over the years. And so this past week, I know I'm going to feel anxious when I go in there. So that's one thing. But I keep hoping that will not be the case. I keep naively hoping that I'll just go there and be like, it's fine. Just do this, whatever. There's still that thought in my head or that naive hope. And then when my heart starts to beat fast and I can't breathe as much as I'd like, it's like, am I going to fight against that or accept that that's how my body's feeling and work with it?
Interesting. This definitely comes up a lot in the sessions I have with people. I tend to have clients who have used their intellect to make their way in the world and create structures that keep them safe. We were talking about this before. It does work. It definitely works. I mean, it works as a survival mechanism, let's say. But I think it's hard work. And I love what you talk about in terms of resistance. What I'll say to people is like, it's actually the resistance that's exhausting. If you think about pushing against a wall, you're not getting anywhere. You're expending massive amounts of energy and you're not getting the results that you want. So the alternative to that, you can keep pushing, which is what many of us do, or you can turn around and walk in the other direction. You can walk with it as opposed to against it. So how do you think that relates to your experience in the waiting room, let's say?
Well, I can track the experience of like, no matter what I'm saying to my body or if I'm trying to talk it out of it, my body knows what's true for it, right? For the experiences I've had in my life and for the experience it's having right then. Does not feel good in this environment. So telling it that it should is not working. So the idea of being able to stop and just accept the reality of what's happening, that this is a hard situation for me. I can't just make it easier by thinking about it. And yeah, like then I can start planning and mitigating the difficulty, but it's from that place of this is hard.
So I love that. I think sometimes currently we live in an environment that almost pathologizes anxiety, right? Oh, anxiety is terrible. You need to get rid of anxiety. I think I was about 37 before I realized I had a lifelong experience and relationship with anxiety. So I don't know if that means I'm more or less qualified to talk about it. The idea that anxiety is really hard, I think that's the issue, right? The impact of anxiety on your body is difficult. I am not at all suggesting that we should just live with anxiety with no mitigation. I'm not saying that at all. But I do think it's appropriate to remember that there are certain times in our lives where, to your point, things are hard and anxiety makes sense. If you've had terrible experiences having had medical tests or at the dentist or whatever, your body is going to respond to the memories of those terrible experiences. And so anxiety makes sense, right? It's not pathological. Now, to my point earlier, if the anxiety gets so high that it starts to interrupt your functioning, then clearly it needs to be supported. But I think, again, if you go to the idea of resistance, it's not about shutting it up. It's about listening, actually. And to what you were saying,
Absolutely.
we listen to our bodies that are not just messing with us, actually. They're trying to give us really valuable information. It might be a larger reaction than what the situation actually calls for, but our bodies are never wrong.
They're actually trying to protect you, right?
That's
Like
right. Yeah.
in that moment when I'm waiting to get my blood drawn, my body's like, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, why are we here? Like, no thanks. You know, it's like your will is keeping you there, right? Because you understand that it's good for you.
Because you're adulting and you're like, I need to get a blood test. It's fine. I probably won't die. Right. But there's that tension now between your brain, which is actually, your brain can lie to you. It's telling you that you're fine when clearly you're not, for example. So our brains lie. Exactly. Our brains can lie to us. Our bodies never do. So it's about, I think, listening to whatever is happening. What is it that your body is trying to tell you? What is the message that it's trying to give you? And then you use your big brain to figure out, is my reaction in alignment with what is actually happening in this moment? Or is it something from my past or whatever. And then I think to your earlier point, you can make a plan, but you can't
Yes.
make a plan until you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and you have to start with the body. So I'm curious about an exercise that you do with clients
Yeah.
that helps illustrate that point.
Well, are you willing to, in this moment, sort of be my client?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, Michelle, tell me something that is happening in your body, some kind of sensation that you're aware of. What do you notice?
My neck feels really tight, like I'm forcing myself to be upright somehow.
And you possibly are you?
I mean, it's keeping me upright, but it's not doing it in a really easeful way. It's doing it in a forceful way.
Okay, got it. So your neck is tight. Can you give me more, sort of, can you qualify that at all? Can you give me some details about how that, like the quality of that tightness? What does it feel like?
It feels like someone's gripping me from the back of my neck, which makes it hard. Yeah, like makes it hard to move. So it's kind of like a pressure, a tightness, a restriction, it feels like. And it's uncomfortable. Like it's a little bit achy.
Absolutely. Can I talk you out of it?
You could try.
So, jokes aside, if I sit here and use all of my words, can I talk you out of the feeling that you are experiencing with your neck? Can I tell you, no, Michelle, that's not true. Your neck is fine. You feel fine. There's nothing actually happening. You're safe. There's nothing happening in your vicinity that means you have to brace or you have to force yourself to do anything. You're fine. Is that working?
It's not. And if anything, it gets louder.
It does.
I feel dismissed. Like you're trying to tell me something that is not real.
Because you know it's not true, right? I can use any of my influence, coercion, whatever, creative thought using my brain to try to talk you out of what your neck knows to be true. And so for me, this is where I'll say to people, this is the basis now for your foundation. This is what you know to be true. It doesn't matter what I say. I cannot talk you out of what your body knows. And I think we do this to ourselves all the time. So we ignore, because it's uncomfortable, what's happening in our body and try to tell ourselves that we should calm down or it's not that bad or actually we're fine. And then to your point, our bodies get louder, right?
Yes, exactly. And that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning when I used to fight against the anxiety when I was having medical tests or at the dentist. It would get
Yeah.
so much louder. It would just be like, no, you're not okay. And I keep trying to tell myself I'm okay. But once I kind of accept that, okay, yeah, this is my body's experience, it's not going to feel okay in this environment.
So let me ask you this way. If you were taking care of a child who was about 8 or 9 years old, who was anxious about something, maybe they had to go to the dentist and they're scared of the dentist, how would you support that child? What would you say to them? How would you handle that situation? They still have to go. You got to go to the dentist. That's the issue.
I guess I would give it that caveat first. We're going to have to go. This is why. I would say, like, that makes sense that you don't want to do that and that your body does not feel good in that environment. And I don't like going to the dentist. I don't think many people do. It can be painful, it can be uncomfortable. I'm going to be there with you, and I believe you're going to be okay. And if you're not, then we'll stop and we'll figure something out.
So, what I'm actually hearing is that you would be kind and patient and compassionate with this child and support them to do the thing that scares them.
Yeah.
So my point is not a subtle one that I'm making, but I think that is exactly the way if we are able to treat our own bodies that way, right? If we're able to treat ourselves that way, as though we're supporting an 8-year-old, most of us know how to do it fairly intuitively. So it's not about changing your action. It's just how you go about it, right? And it's the starting place from which you begin. Does this make sense?
Absolutely. It's shifting the relationship to your body.
I love that. Yeah.
Approaching it with kindness and understanding, and like you said, like that relationship of like, yeah, that's true for you and that's hard
I mean,
and
you're
we'll
not going
figure it
to
out.
tell a child that they're silly for being scared. They are scared. You're not going to give them all the reasons why they shouldn't be scared. That's irrelevant. Have you ever tried to talk a kid out of being scared of the dark? Good luck. It doesn't matter that it's safe. They feel scared. So if you're going to be successful, right, and it's about objectives, like what are you trying to achieve? If you're trying to achieve whatever the action is that needs to be taken, then I would argue this is a much more successful way to get there.
Yes, and it has to begin in the body, like
Yeah.
that regulation piece of attending to the body first.
Yeah. And
Which
then you
we
use
could
your big
talk
brain to make a plan.
Exactly. And we could break that down a little bit more, I think, in a different podcast, because I think people would be interested in that body
Regulation.
experience. Yeah, regulation. I think that's a huge thing. I think everyone can benefit that, and it's like a lifelong learning because your body's
Yeah,
not going to stop. Sometimes,
no, I agree. Maybe the takeaway today is that whatever is happening in your body, there's a reason. There's a reason for it. And that you get a lot farther if you listen rather than try to shut it up.
yes, I'm kind of thinking about it. Sometimes your body's having a different experience than you are because you're not connected. So it's like your body's giving you certain information, but you're saying it's okay. So it's like that disconnect. How do you connect the two?
Well, and I think that when you try the tension that exists there, that's another way to talk about the resistance that we talked about at the beginning, right? So instead of pushing against each other, you move together. So instead of resistance, it's integration, I think, right? So instead of
Like,
fighting against the current, you swim with the current. You're going to get a lot further, I think.
yes, exactly. And your brain can bring in different tools. Like maybe it can have a boat that goes with the current
Yeah.
or whatever, right? It's
Or a
like
life preserver or something, it doesn't matter. But yeah, you can figure out a way to mitigate the
mitigate.
challenges of the
Yeah.
experience, right? Yeah, but it's not in opposition to it. It's in cooperation with.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Good talk.
Yeah, that was a good one.
All right. See you guys next time.